the way that you develop your identity and your life experiences as life goes on. So try to think of a forest, and every individual tree is a different person. And the trees, they should all grow up straight, all parallel, okay? Infinitely reaching higher and higher towards the clouds, towards their potential, towards their grandeur, right? Their capability as life goes on. But you gotta understand, imagine like the perimeter of every tree is like the perimeter, all the aspects of your personality. Positive, negative, discipline, achievement, celebration, appreciation, all those kind of interesting, colorful things of your personality. And if you identify with one thing or another, like a basketball player or a truck driver or a pickup artist or whatever it might be, if you focus too much on one part of your identity at the neglect of all the other parts of your identity, that tree, that perimeter of your tree, the bark of your tree, if you might call it that, you'll have so much focus on that what will happen, instead of growing up just straight, you'll neglect other parts of your personality, and what will happen is you'll bend towards the ego that you want. So instead of growing up like straight and natural, well-rounded, you know, as we use that expression in English, a well-rounded person who's both humble and appreciative and challenges himself and develops other people, like a well-rounded person, you're going to become like perhaps stubborn, okay, or small-minded, or overly religious, or overly negative, and all of a sudden what kind of started out that has a lot of potential, it's going to start curling off into one direction or bending into one direction as you try to reinforce this feeling of whatever ego it might be. So identity and ego really go hand in hand. The problem is, if you seek to become a guy who's good with girls, or a great basketball player, or a great Formula One driver, or if you really want to identify with being the village idiot or the fat guy in the group, the problem is because you get external reinforcement, then you get a strong sense of comfort from what you're doing. So take, for example, like the fat, funny guy who's a low achiever, okay? Almost like Turtle in Entourage, you know that guy? The fat underachiever who's just kind of cute, who nobody expects anything of. That reality that kind of guy lives in, and we all know a guy like that, especially from our college years or high school years. That guy is super, super comfortable being the cute, funny, nobody takes him seriously type of guy. Whereas a more rounded type of guy, if we go back to Entourage, like the guy E, who is both positive, negative, dates chicks, challenges his friend, is a good friend at the same time. He's quite rounded, and as the 8 years of series goes on, he goes up and up and up and up and up, right? What will happen sometimes, this happens to everybody, is we will kind of become egotistical in one way or another, or lazy, or arrogant, or stubborn. And our tree, our kind of like life experience, the tree of it growing up toward the sun, it will kind of tip in one direction. And if it kind of tips off kilter and you don't have people around you like mentors, parents, colleagues, or friends to say, dude, what the fuck, you're being lazy, arrogant, self-absorbed, unappreciative. If you're tipping too far in one direction, if you're getting basically off track, somebody's going to give you a kind of a shock to the system, or what's called an ego bruise. And that can really fucking hurt. And you'll know in TV shows when you have long-term characters, sometimes they'll go a little bit like off the rails. And when they do, they might have their own powerful realization, or somebody might kind of chop them down, or they might have basically an ego burst where they have a reality check and they need to kind of backtrack on what they had done and then get back on track. I love Samatita. Matita, hey, hey, Samatita. It's more of a slower, steadier, consistent development that takes you extremely high. And to be honest, when you have when you have a well-rounded identity, you can become the president of the United States, or the head of a corporation like Virgin Atlantic. You could be somebody like Richard Branson, or Barack Obama, or Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. So if you're well-rounded, you're actually a little bit less eventful of a guy, but you should be very balanced in self-challenge, interacting with others, appreciating others, leading others, being humble, laughing at yourself, a lot of self-belief as well. The philosophy of being a well-rounded person and not having an ego is that you shouldn't really identify with anything. people will project names onto you. Okay, they might think that you're dashing or stupid or goofy or funny or a good laugh or whatever. They can call you all of those names, and they're all interesting, descriptive words, but none of those things you should try to reinforce more so than any other thing at the same time. Otherwise, you will go off, stop growing directly up to your full potential. You'll start curling off into a different direction that will hold you in place. For example, maybe one of your buddies when you were young got really good at playing computer games and smoking weed, and then he identified with that and he wanted to reinforce that, and then that's what he became for a very long time in his life. And to snap out of it after years, it can be really fucking hard. Whereas the cool kids, not even the cool kids, more like the high achiever type kids, the well-rounded kids, they will take a compliment and they'll enjoy it for just a couple of seconds, but then they'll move on. They'll take criticism and they'll take it very, very seriously for a little while, think about what they do to need to recorrect, and then they'll go for it like that. Stubbornness is the opposite of having good self-development, right? Stubbornness is when somebody's gonna basically criticize you, and you're gonna ignore that criticism, and that criticism becomes a massive blind spot. What's gonna happen is with a blind spot, somebody's gonna say, dude, you're smoking too much weed, or dude, you're being too arrogant, or dude, you're driving your car too fast, you're not that good, and you stubbornly block it out. You're not accepting flies, you're not accepting feedback from others, and next thing you know, you're blocking out big chunks of your reality that is really important for your balanced development all throughout your entire life. I think I have claustrophobia and I go to clubs every week. I'm like, fuck. My massive, massive blind spot is my marketing. And I believe it has something to do with Australian culture, but I'm really, really bad at marketing myself, to be honest, okay? To tell my story of what I can do and the way that I can help people, the way that I can work with somebody in field and reassure them emotionally. Because I feel like it's kind of an arrogance or self-absorption or something like that, but it's extremely important that I help to relate to somebody the value that I could have to them. Okay, so there's quite a big blind spot for me with that. So I work with marketing guys to reassure me that it's okay to tell my story and to reassure younger guys who are unsure about themselves that I can help them to be sure of themselves in this role that I do as a life coach and a in-field pickup instructor. So other people have blind spots, like for example, like a crazy cat lady. The crazy cat lady, she becomes stubborn toward men or towards external feedback or toward her friends who have been mean to her in the past, and she just stubbornly blocks it out, and she gets a reinforcement loop of love from cats. And I know quite a few cat ladies, both 25, 35, 45, 55, and it's kind of sad because if, women and some immature guys are really bad at taking external feedback, and that being the case, they just not only stagnate, but they start to decay in their lives because no one's there to kind of keep them in check and allow them to keep growing up towards the sun. And to be honest, it can be very daunting and scary to grow to your full potential. And all of us can blind ourselves to our potential and block positive things out, or block constructive criticism out, so that we don't grow any higher than we already are. Because honestly, it is extremely fucking overwhelming to be thrust into a position of power. For example, if you were born as the heir to a massive company throne, or you were born to the heir of the British United Kingdom throne as, the young princes of the British Empire, that's fucking overwhelming. And sometimes people like Britney Spears, for example, they just self-destruct. David Chappelle self-destruct because so much pressure is put on them that they kind of block it out, and drugs become involved, alcohol becomes involved, and they don't reach their potential. So to kind of summarize this philosophy, this philosophical Monday, is take it a little bit slow, try to keep a good balance. And if somebody criticizes you, if somebody compliments you, take your criticism and pay attention. If somebody compliments you, take that acknowledgement and pay attention. Don't be the kind of guy who disacknowledges the positive and the guy who ignores the criticism, okay? Pay a bit of attention, try to keep it well balanced, and have that good self-awareness from all points of view. Then you should keep moving forward, chase your goals, influence other people, learn from other people, be well-rounded, And as life goes on, you'll become a pillar unto others, the girls that you want to pick up, the children that you're going to have, the friends that are less emotionally strong than you around you. You're going to be a pillar for them who can help them with their blind spots, and you can bring them up to your high level. And that means privilege, women, money, travel, beautiful restaurants, beautiful clothing, beautiful, like all that good stuff. So that's why all of this is so important, so you can give yourself options in life and be around like-minded, well-rounded people, okay? And not be egotistical, not be arrogant, not be stubborn, but live a good, well-challenged life where you can kind of live to your full potential. You will have snapbacks, you will have ego, you know, kind of like your head will grow too big with your ego and it'll burst. That's bound to happen, but that's good. Just like an economy, it'll expand and collapse, but rebuild. Expand and collapse and rebuild and keep moving forward and inflate as time goes on. So